Keep it. Oh, you don't need his ugly face in there.
Now Michael's in there.
The
real star of the show.
The real one is there. Okay.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. We're ready to roll.
Okay. Here we go. Here comes the point.
Yeah. Welcome to the Meyers Jewelers Experience. I'm Jeff with Meyers Jewelers. That funny looking dude is the question guy, Mike.
That's right.
And Rachel is back, aren't you, from Iceland?
Yes.
Woo-hoo! Boy, we had a good trip there. Don't tell my wife. No, go on. Okay.
Jeffrey, it's been a couple of weeks.
I know. I'm so excited to be here. I was jumping out of my skin ready to get here.
I was excited because you said you had the day off, so we're going to knock out 2 shows today, which people
I'm off today, and then I'm going golfing.
But you're also going out of town, aren't you?
No.
Is that next week?
No.
I thought you were leaving for New
No,
York.
I'm leaving in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
For New York City. I have a son who I just was speaking to who might be watching right now on Facebook Live. Hi there, little Shane, if you're watching.
Who also calls while we're doing the show.
Yeah, no, that's Justin, one of my other sons. I was talking to him too. But Shane lives in Brooklyn, New York, in a place called Bushwick, one of the coolest communities in America. And if you look up, I think it was maybe in Forbes or one of those, and it was ranked in the top 10 coolest communities in America.
It's kind of got its own little culture going.
Oh, it's my son Shane is a musician, and he is trying to make it in the world of music, and he's a singer-songwriter, and went to the Berklee College of Music, which is a very fine music school, very difficult to get into, and he got in there, and John Mayer went to school there. Melissa Etheridge, Quincy Jones, quite a nice array of musicians that have gone there. There's actually a new girl that's out there that Shane was friends with that got picked up by a label. Her name is Jade Bird. She went there. She has a couple good songs.
Wasn't Charlie Puth one of those? Because
I don't know who Charlie Puth is.
Well, he's on.
You just made that name up.
No. That is not a name.
Oh, Charlie Puth. There he is.
Well, because I had Shane on before Shane.
Oh, you say he went to school there?
Yeah. Well, what was funny is he was on a different show that we produce, and he happened to look at the wall, and he said, "I know him. I went to school with him."
Oh, really? Okay.
So it was a cool send-off for him because it was right before he was leaving. I thought he was going to Vermont because he was starting work on his album.
No, he was going to the Catskill Mountains in New York with he recorded 5 songs with a fella by the name of Simon Felice. And if anybody doesn't know who he is, look him up. He is the producer for the highly popular album that the Lumineers did called Cleopatra, which was a #1 selling album all over the world. And someone sent Shane's music that he had written and recorded in his bedroom to him, and he loved it, and asked him to come out for a week. And he slept there, stayed there, recorded music in the same studio that the Lumineers recorded Cleopatra in, which was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yes. So I'm going to hang out with Shane. That's the trip. Not to get off target there.
Are we ever on target?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that people have expectations that this is going to flow nicely.
And the interesting thing with Shane's place, which is hard to get used to, Shane lives in a pretty nice little place here in Brooklyn, and I kept thinking, why is this place so nice for the money? Because we are in New York City, where you are lucky to have a closet to live in. And the place was actually pretty big. It had a little balcony. I go, man, this place is sweet. And then I noticed literally 10 feet from the window is the subway. The train goes right by every 5 minutes and just rattles the place. But that's living in New York. So, and he said when he comes back home to visit, he can't sleep here because it's so quiet. Hates the quiet now that he's used to that.
I'm sure it took him a while to get used to that when he first went out.
So to get on to a jewelry subject.
Yes,
here.
I'm so sorry. Well, I thought you and I saw each other, I want to say Monday or Tuesday, and we kind of kicked around ideas for the show this week.
Yes, regrettably, I had to see you.
Yes, well, I know you always look forward to when I'm leaving, but one of the things we were talking about is I asked you some of the products that you've had because when your dad started the store,
it was 51 years ago.
Yeah, and it was downtown, and then he moved it.
Nope, not downtown.
No, not downtown?
No.
What do you consider?
Great Southern Shopping Center. That is.
Oh, I'm sorry. He started working in a shop though downtown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Years ago, he started right when he was a young boy.
So when he was no longer a young boy and he had his own store.
Yes.
One of the things I wondered is you've had a relationship with a lot of the vendors that you work with even today, and
Yes.
I don't think we ever heard the story of how starting a store is one thing, but to build the trust in these brands that you're going to be the guy that's going to kind of carry the mantle and sell this. That's what I was curious about. Is what?
Yeah,
how did
two of
that
the
happen?
oldest brands that we have that we had 51 years ago and that we still carry today. One is Art Carved Bridal, which is a very well-known, well-established brand that's been around since the 1800s. Wedding bands, engagement rings, ladies' wedding bands. That's their main, but they were the first ones to come up with the tungsten carbide steel men's wedding bands, which is the craze that everybody,
Well, that's what
most
this
of the
ring
guys,
is.
yep.
It's not a wedding band, but I mean, this thing weighs next to nothing, but you can't.
That is the ring that tells you that you have nobody.
Yeah, this just reminds me when I put it on, I'm like, nobody cares about me.
Exactly. Well,
But-
few people do. But.
Well, the people that I bought it from, I mean, it's a Meyers Jeweler classic. We'll just put it that way. But it weighs next to nothing. And
That's
you
not
can't
tungsten then.
What,
Tungsten is very heavy. That
This
must
one?
be, no, that is heavy. What are you saying it weighs next
I'm
to
a very
nothing?
strong man. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a heavy ring
Yeah, but
compared to most rings.
what the
Way
rea-
heavier than gold.
The reason I got this though was you could not scratch it.
You can't scratch it. You can't destroy it. You can't do anything to it. It was a great. What happened was gold forever was maybe $500 an ounce or lower. All of a sudden, gold took this huge jump, and probably about 2000 and I don't know, it was maybe 2005. It took a massive jump, and actually went up almost to $2,000 an ounce. Today it hangs around $1,300 an ounce, but that it's almost triple. So therefore, the price of a ring will. So for example, a 14 karat gold ring, if the price of gold has tripled, that means the ring's going to be double.
Right.
So a ring that was $500 is now $1,000, or a ring that was $1,000, you're now talking $2,000. So that made it a lot tougher to sell a 14 karat gold men's band. So our car came up with this great idea that let's use a metal that is man-made, that's indestructible, won't scratch, and we can sell it for $200 to $300. And they look almost like, because they have a white tungsten band that looks just like white gold. And they've expanded. They have yellow now, rose-colored, black, two tones. They have everything on it. Diamonds in there, whatever you want. So you can get a really nice men's wedding band for like $200 to $300.
I would like to know when they were looking at the price of gold going up, like who had that concept, because this is not new metal, but it was used for other jewelry, right? And then it was kind of
Tungsten carbide steel is used a lot, like gunmetal, same
Right.
type of thing to make a gun. So if you can shoot a gun, a bullet out of this metal, it will definitely hold up sitting on somebody's finger.
Right.
And you see guns, they look brand new after 50 years. You can look at a gun if it's taken care of, and they look like new. So I don't know which gentleman in that company came up with that idea, but whoever it was brilliant, because I'd say that's about 70% of the men's wedding band sales now is switched from 14 karat gold to tungsten carbide steel.
That was right about the time that when I was I was about to get married. Those were the rings we were looking at, because we were looking at platinum and that. And I remember.
And by the way, I always meant to do this. Was your ex-wife, was there like a bribe or something that she had to actually marry you? Some reason that forced her to do it?
I mean, as long as we're talking
just
about
curious.
this, and it's just us talking. I mean,
Nobody listens,
how-
right?
how do you-
Is there anybody out there listening? No, so therefore
Well,
we can say whatever.
The good news is she isn't listening either. But the thing is, at 27, I was a total package. I started falling apart around 29, 30.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
so at 27, you were actually,
I had it
would
going
have
on.
been good.
I had it going on.
Okay.
And then it all went south. Everything started going
All right.
bad. But you remember, I mean, I was coming in to see you when I was 20-some years old. You remember, I really, there was something there. I've lost it.
Unfortunately, I don't remember that.
Listen, I remember those days.
Well, as long as you remember, that's all that matters.
But to get back to the point I was
Yes.
trying to make is when we were looking at different men's bands and all that, I remember you taking this ring out and doing what I just did to you, where you handed it to me, and I thought, that has a really nice feel to that.
Yeah, they're great.
But you took it and were trying to scratch it to show me
You
that
got
you
it.
didn't mess up.
Yeah, when we first started doing that, the Art Carve said the way to sell these rings is get something that would normally scratch the you-know-what out of a wedding band, because it would be gold, and let them do it, and they'll see they can't scratch it.
Right.
And they'll go, whoa, that's crazy, which they do, but now everybody pretty much knows about it. But it is funny, I still get people, and I don't know if this actually ever happened, but when the first rings started coming out, because you can't cut them. So, for example, if you wear a size 10 and 5 years later after being married, you blow up and you're now a size 12 because you ate like a pig
you're
and sat
falling
on the
apart.
couch
Yeah.
and never did anything, you can't size them. So what Art Carve will do, and we have the deal set up, anybody that buys one from us, and that happens to them, they bring the ring back, we send it in, you get a brand new ring. So that's not too bad of a deal. But so what happens is, so you can't cut it to sizes. So what happens if the ring is stuck on your finger and your finger gets smashed like a brick falls on it and it is swelling up and you got this ring stuck on there and it's cutting off circulation to your finger? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Because now you have me concerned.
Correct. I have people, because the word on the street was that people had to have their fingers cut off in order to do that because it was swelling. Then the whole hand would start swelling and you're going to run into a real problem. So they had to cut off the finger. I don't know if that ever happened or not, but they came up with a way to bust those open. So all the ERs, hospitals, firemen, ambulances, they all have this piece of equipment that can bust the ring open.
Wow.
I don't know how they do it, but they can do it.
So it's changed more than one industry. It's changed the
The
hospital industry.
Right,
as
but
well.
I still get people and go, God, is there, like, if I get my finger broken, are they going to have to cut my finger off? I always get that question.
Well, knowing you, I'm sure that you tell that exact story. Like, yeah, I've heard people have lost their finger.
And, yeah, I do like,
You
it
don't tend to
depends on
hold
the
back.
customer. I will play around with that question very nicely.
So, how did that come to be that your dad, Meyer, put that in the store? Like, how did he get them to say? Like,
Oh, okay, yeah. You asked me that a while ago. Forgot about that.
no, but I mean,
question.
I think
Yes. So
it was a
what
fascinating
happened
story.
was, so he was an incredible salesperson and a great, well-liked, great man. And although he was just, selling for the store he worked for, and then he decided to do his own thing, he called, for example, Art Carved, which was the top brand at that time, told them what they were going to do, or what he was doing, and asked if they would be willing to put merchandise in on what they call memo. Memo means they will put the merchandise in. You don't have to pay for it until it's sold. So as it sells, you pay for it, because unfortunately, he didn't have any money to pay for it. So he barely got enough together to get the store opened. And I've told the story about the sign and all that, how he did that and saved money. But so he asked Art Carved, and they knew his sales history and how good of a salesperson he was and how likable and his following, and they were banking that those people would follow him, which they did. And then word spread, and eventually he was able to buy the stock, and 51, not when I say the stock, the merchandise.
Right.
And 51 years later, we are still a big seller of the Art Carve bridal brand. So it worked for both of us.
So a question I have, and
So that's why they were able to do it, put it all in his store without him paying one dime.
but see, you said something very important, is that they knew who he was and he was able to call them. Do you think you could do that today? Because here's what I see.
Today would be tough,
You
because
had to be
I
able to,
see that trust is not like
That's
it
right.
used to be.
That's right.
Back then, literally, you hear the stories that things were done on a handshake.
Yeah.
I mean, they truly were.
Well, you
And
couldn't
my
text
father was
somebody.
a huge believer in that.
Right.
trust. And he built his business with customers. They would come in. Like when my father passed away, I got a great letter from a gentleman that said, I could not afford a ring for my wife, who he's still married to this day and still a customer. And we're probably going back maybe 30 years or so ago. And my father trusted him and let him take the ring, and he just made his payments on it to my dad and paid it off. And he and his entire family are still customers, and all done on a handshake. Today, I don't think you can do that.
No.
Sadly, but it's a different world.
But I always think about those businesses when they started that long ago. Like whenever you watch, like Mad Men is something I love to watch, but most of the time it was, we're going to do this, we're in agreement, and you could trust somebody's word. But vendors had to actually spend time with you. They couldn't send you an email. They couldn't text you. They couldn't just call you on your cell phone. They had to build a rapport with you. So he must have built a reputation with those people.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that. There was really, other than because they're out of New York, I mean, it's not like they were reading reviews and checking everything out online or talking on the cell phone and FaceTiming. You had to be pretty good to be able to gain the trust of a big company like that for some little guy in Columbus, Ohio, 51 years ago,
which was
who had nothing.
Yeah, and it was a much smaller market, but a guy to say, yeah, I'm just starting up and I want to carry your stuff. How do we work it out? But that's the amazing thing, is that he did get it worked out.
He did, yeah. So it's very interesting.
Let's take a break here, Jeff. We're going to come right back. You're listening to the Meyers Jewelers Experience. Kick it back in. So we went through our card. Who's the second oldest? Do you want to talk about any other bridal?
Bulova Watch brand
Okay.
has been a brand since day one. They did the same thing.
Okay. Bring us back. You ready,
Ready?
Jimmy?
Here we go.
Okay, we're back. Wow, that was a good break. Woo!
It was a long, extended break.
Yes, I am worn out from sitting here waiting.
You are still listening to the Meyers Jewelers Experience.
Yeah, we're here again. Yes, we're back.
Jeff, we talked about our card.
Yes,
and how
we did.
That was a day one brand for Meyers.
Yes. Another one I'd like to talk about, if it's okay with you.
Well,
and
we
Jim.
have the time. Yeah, Jim approves. Thumbs up. For
Yes.
him.
Okay. Bulova Watch. I think that's a brand most people know. Bulova Watch has been around for a long, long time. I cannot tell you. I'm thinking they might have been around since the late 1800s, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But they were one of the first American watch brands, and they still have a good name today. And they did the same thing.
They did
The store that my father worked at before he opened his store was a big carrier of the Bulova brand. And, back then there was no Seiko, no Citizen, no Pulsar, probably no Timex. I'm not real sure,
so.
but those are different type of watches. But, those watches weren't around. Bulova was the king on the block back then. And my dad asked him the same thing, told him, and they knew what he could do. And the sales rep who was in Columbus, it was based out of Columbus. His name, I remember to this day, was Arnold Berger. And he was like the king of the sales reps. And back then, they would get dressed up in suits and, they drive really nice cars. It was a whole different animal. And he was one of the legendary road jewelry rep guys. And he got Bulova to extend the same courtesy to my father and put watches in and kind of pay as you go. And to this day, 51 years later, we still have a Bulova watch in our store.
Did you ever see this Mr. Berger come in? Did he ever do kind of like a sales presentation? I always wondered how those guys used to do it back in the day, where they'd have to bring you the item and they'd have to pitch you right there. Like,
well, back then, before the salesmen were all robbed on the road
right.
by the gangs that follow those guys around, they used to bring the entire lines into the store.
Like in a case or like a suitcase type thing?
Yeah, like it was one of those big roller travel cases, and I mean they're huge. I remember he would bring the entire Bulova line in the store. I mean there had to be 500 watches, and he would roll them in there, lay them all out on the counters, and then we would just pick and look, and then they'd mail them into you. Whatever you picked, your order. But every line did that. And like Art Carve would bring in every ring they carried, and they would be real, live. Today they'll come in with fake rings.
Right.
That are made out of silver with cubic zirconia stones, because the insurance liability is just insane due to the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that there are these gangs that travel all over the country and watch jewelry stores and look for guys that look like road guys, and when they just follow them for the right moment when they can rob them. And so therefore, they don't really carry much live stuff anymore on the road.
Do you miss that, though, being able to look?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. They would just lay it all out. I mean, they'd have, some of these guys would literally have $1 million worth of jewelry on them that they just travel all over the country with.
Because it's not like, if you go to a chain store, I'm sure they're doing the same thing, but where it's not the real stuff. But to be able to look at that stuff and go through, I like this, I don't like this. I always thought the sales part of it, like what you guys do for people that come in now, where you're saying, here's the benefit of getting this platinum versus this or whatever. That's the real fun of the whole thing. And I would think it'd be the same thing if you're buying to sell it to the public. I would think you would want to touch that stuff and know why.
You know how they do it now, most of the sales guys? They have a book with pictures.
I thought you were going to say like an iPad.
Yeah,
that
that too. Some of them actually do that. I think Citizen Watch uses a tablet, and they show you the pictures, and then you push the button, and that means you're buying that.
But I'm just thinking of
a little different than the old days, feeling it, putting it on your wrist, seeing how it looks, that type of thing. But just due to the sad, what am I trying to say?
The state of affairs today.
Yeah, pretty much, with not being able,
Insurance.
just people worried about getting robbed. So
And I get that.
Can't do it.
I think of how, when I would ask your dad, and again, I was younger, I was just very curious of, I admired that he started his own business, but it was more, I liked it, the way he would present things. The way he would hand you a ring wasn't,
yeah,
I mean,
he would do everything perfect.
yeah. Or how he would put
Yeah.
a watch, like, you'd be looking at things and he would kind of take your wrist and just gently put a watch, like, just look at it. There was salesmanship to that, and I always thought that was a really cool thing. Or how you'd walk in
There
and
was
he'd
something
clean your
very.
ring.
He was a very, and I know he's my father, so I'm very partial. But he was a very rare individual that he was really memorable. We had a lady in, who was. We would love to go to a particular Chinese restaurant on 161 called Hunan House. I don't know if anybody out there's been there, but my favorite Chinese restaurant. And they've been around, maybe 35, 40 years. So we would go there, and we had the same lady that was our waitress. And we're going back, over 30 years, because she brought up how she remembered me bringing in my oldest son, who is going to be 31, in the little basket that you carry the little babies around in, and would set them on the table while we're eating. And not him.
Yeah, you're
obviously.
nibbling on a toe.
Yeah, not that. But so she remembered, literally 30 some years later, remembered every way my dad would like to order. How he liked the sesame noodles, cold, not spicy. She was telling me everything. So, I mean, how many people, do you remember that type of thing on, like what they ordered at the Chinese restaurant?
I just think it's cool because, again, he was always in the store, but when you guys had the two different locations, to see the mannerisms that you guys have that he had, and the way you sell things, and not really, I don't want to say sell things, because you're not like, buy this weekend or it's not going to be on sale. It was the demonstrating the different aspects of why you want this versus that. And I remember watching him do it and seeing you guys do it. It's just weird that it kind of passed down like that.
Yeah, he would have liked, once he got back past the technology part on how we sell the bright crystal diamond.
Oh, he would have loved that.
How it's interactive with the customer on the tablet. He'd have to get beyond that part, because he kind of missed that era on the technology.
Yeah.
But once he got used to that and figured out how to use it, oh God, he would have loved that. How you get the customers involved on, looking at the diamond, magnified and how you can move the diamond around, but it's on the tablet, not the real diamond. And he would have really liked that, because it's people tend to remember that.
Right.
They think it's because I've asked people that have gone shopping around, and they see the bright crystal diamond, and they see the diamond and the presentation, and they say they don't run across anything like that anywhere else. So we like that exclusiveness, and that way that we're showing our bright crystal diamonds as well.
When it still goes back to the original way you guys always did it. You still have the diamond on hand. You're still
The diamonds are there.
but you're putting it in someone's hand. You're letting them pick it. It's not, again,
Not pre-made, and you have to take it like that, or
Right.
you don't take it then.
right. And you got to take it this weekend because
We don't play that.
It's our
game.
fall sale or whatever. I
Yes.
always like the pressure that you got if you went with a girlfriend just to look at jewelry and be like, you could wear that to dinner tonight. And I always thought,
Ooh, that's a good line.
Yeah. I mean, it did work 3 or 4 times. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
I find it hard to believe you even had a chance at a date 3 or 4 times.
I will say this. In
Jim
closing,
kept shaking his head. There's no way that you actually were on 3 or 4 dates.
In closing this show for this week, I just want to point out that I bought my ring from Scott, and Scott was like, "You guys are gonna love this." Blah 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 blah.
And I kept probably thinking in the background, that's never going to last.
And then when
we'll be buying that ring back, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, and when it didn't work, you just said, "Morris, I could have told you that." And I thought, this is why I didn't come to your store. Now you're all
Exactly.
under one roof.
Yeah, we're all there, one happy little family under the roof.
Listen, that's going to be it, but thank you for all the compliments today.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and I was glad to be back here on the Meyers Jewelers radio show.
All right, we will see you next week.
Experience Meyers Jewelers. We'll see you all next week.